punches and how to throw punches, or what's the best way to throw punches. Um, Let me turn off this stuff over here. And of course, there's lots of schools of thought. Now, recently, I think um, people are starting to realize that different ways of punching, should be used for different occasions or different. Um, if you try to do something different, then you just change the way you punch. But I can remember when it was a big debate, because there is I can remember boxers saying that corkscrew was the only way to punch, or you should only do corkscrew punches is the safest and the most power, or whatever. And really, you know that's not true in my opinion. I mean, it does have a little extra power, kind of, um but the original way that, or the original reason that people started doing corkscrew, was because they wanted to cut the skin, meaning they wanted to cause abrasions to the top of the eyebrow in order for their opponents not to be able to see because of the blood. And usually that's how most fights would end. When it comes to bare knuckle. And when they start, I think what happened was when they started to use gloves, that wasn't happening anymore, and fights were going on for longer. Um, and this technique, this corkscrew technique, was kind of a way of being able to cause more cuts easier to the head because of the glove. Since it's made out of leather, a little scrape at the end, a little, kind of turn at the end is gonna cause more of a cut. Um, but I think that was the original theory. Of course, later on, more techniques were involved with corkscrew. In my opinion, the strength of corkscrew has to do more with the amount of muscles that are engaged within corkscrew. I believe there's more, just simply because of the way. You just look at it here. You have to turn in order to turn towards the end. You have to engage more muscles from your back. Um, Also, the way it's positioned, it almost makes a recoil to your guard, and it makes you want to recoil back to your center guard, or your stance. Um, but believe it or not, when people started using corkscrew and started to stop using horizontal or even vertical, injuries went up. That's part of the reason why our boxers today, um, get injured more often, and they suffer hand injuries more than in the past. And in the past they actually used to fight more often than we do now. I mean, most fighters don't even want to fight more than once a year in these days, and it's partially because they know that the wear and tear in their hands is going to eventually cause some kind of injury. It's almost, at this point, it's almost baked into their routine of how many times a year they're going to fight, and so on and so forth. But they used to not be a problem because people used to focus more on punching and focus more on the technique behind punching. Um, and You know, a lot of people, when it comes to corkscrew, they say that you're supposed to connect with the last two knuckles, and that's the best way to do it. For and some people say different theories. Some people say it's because it's more power. Some people say that it's those are the strongest knuckles and it's safer, and because those are the strongest knuckles, it's harder to break. But yet, like I said, you have more people getting injured now than back in the day. Um, but what we have here is a vertical, and you know, looking back a little bit, we could see one of the earlier or one of the latest um, advocates that were still advocating for vertical style punches. Was a boxer by the name of Jack Dempsey, and that was way after bare knuckle. That was way after, you know, the Queensberry rules of boxing were implemented. Um, and there was, you know, you still used boxing gloves, but they were not like the boxing gloves we have today. They were kind of thin, but still you had guys like Jack Dempsey still advocating um, for a vertical like the one you see here. In fact, this is probably from one of his pages of one of his books, Championship Boxing. Championship. I said chip. Chocolate chip. um, but yeah, so and I've tried this type of punch, right? And I've read the book and tried to perform this style of punching, and I tried to look into also, you know, Bruce Lee's Wing Chun style punches, um, and how he modified that into more of a Jack Dempsey style of punch, which is he called the Jeet Kune Do punch, and to see how safe it was. And to be honest, it feels better on your hand than a vertical, or, I mean, than a horizontal or a corkscrew. There's a lot more stability behind your hand. You don't feel like there's a possibility that you could injure your hand at all, to be honest. Um, and there's just more support with a vertical style than there is for a horizontal. But that's not to say that, you know, that you should neglect the other ones, or that you shouldn't um, use horizontal or corkscrew. You know, I think what I do is I do use horizontal to start the fight and to almost condition my opponent that the vertical punches are going to come through the middle. You know, kind of like similar to what Usyk does. I know you guys, if you watch boxing, you know who Alexander Usyk is. Um, and he uses the vertical punches through the middle, right, and to catch his opponents off guard. You know, since he's a smaller fighter, you know, he's able to sneak through the middle a lot easier, and then jump back out of range. But he also does horizontal punches. Now, if you look in his last fight against Tyson Fury, he was using both horizontal and vertical. And if you notice, he was using the vertical to slip through the cracks in the middle. And when he was going to do corkscrew or horizontal, he was going over his opponent's lead hand. So, and that's pretty much what I'm saying, guys. Just you're supposed to be going through the middle, you know, conditioning them with verticals. And then if you're going to go to the body, I would do horizontal or reverse horizontal to the rib cage or to the sides. And you know, once you condition them that way, you know, you can start building an offense. But that's pretty much my take on the matter, guys. I think all of these are you know, valid and useful within a fight. And of course, they all have their weaknesses. So what are the weaknesses for something like corkscrew? So so as I was saying, what are the weaknesses for say a corkscrew? Now I talked about the strengths. The strengths were, of course, that it engages more of your back muscles, in my opinion, and it also reaches further. If you know how to use the corkscrew, I feel like it has longer range um, than say your vertical or your horizontal. But the weaknesses are, the nature of it, or the way it looks is very unnatural to throw a punch this way and end up with a twisted arm like this. And because of that, if you see somebody throwing nothing but corkscrew, just hit the joints. I don't even know if this is legal or illegal, but you could really damage a person if you hit them right in the joints. Um, or, you could even hurt them if you hit them in the shoulder. You know, um, which I don't think there's anything in the rule books that says you can't do that. And if it's a street fight, then even better. Um, Also, you could jam this shot if you time it well. You could go on the inside and past the point of impact, which in the corkscrew is very targeted to the last two knuckles. And because it's very targeted, it's easier to make them miss because of that. Um, if you know how to do that. Um, Now, what are some of the weaknesses of horizontal? Well, there's less muscles, back muscles engaged, but you can make up for that with footwork and angles as you come in. So, but that's the main weakness. Also, if the person moves to the side, they could counter you with circular attacks, because the attacks of a vertical style is very linear. But at the same time, circular attacks are usually slower to get to their target. Um, but it just depends. If the guy's trained, he'll be able to throw hooks, short hooks, that will be able to counter somebody who's throwing like a vertical. Um, and for horizontal, the weakness for horizontal is the hand, the way it's thrown here, it almost wants to come down, and because of that, it's easy to kind of push the hand down, or bring it down, just because of the way it is. This is part of the reason why in karate they train to keep their hand straight out and stiff. you know um, why? Because that's the nature of your body, wants to bring the hand down, just because of how it is. So they train that part with exercises and with resistance and conditioning to keep their hand up. But for example, Wing Chun, it uses that weakness of the body, or that need for the body to want to bring that hand down, the mechanics of the body to punch over a type of punch like this, like a horizontal punch. Why? Because they just bring it down. Why? Because the hand already wants to come down. So that's the main weakness of it. It's also a little bit stiff, um, but it does engage a little bit more of the muscles than something like a horizontal. Um, but that's about it, guys. I personally think that because of the nature of the horizontal wanted to go down, I use it more for body shots. Why? Because, like I said, the nature of it, if you go through to the stomach or to the side of someone's um, sides, the punch, like I said, it's gonna wanna go down, and you just push your weight down on your opponent's rib cage or up. If you do like a reverse horizontal, like an uppercut style. But yeah, that's pretty much what I think, guys. And you could see it in boxing, right? You could see it in all kinds of martial arts. This stuff isn't um, new. But there's a lot of people that say only do this or only do that. What I'm telling you is, if you study them across the board, you're going to see that all of these are useful in some kind of way. I personally would say that if you're going to be punching without any gloves or anything, I would probably at least start off the fight with something like this, like a vertical, because it's just safer for your bones mainly. But anyways, guys, that's going to be it for today. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you guys later.